Oh, so the ghosts finally called back. Look who just picked up the phone. Hello, you beautiful forbidden frequency, you unauthorized presence, you walking violation of every unspoken rule they thought would keep you contained forever. Do you feel it? That weight in your chest? That electric hum in your bones? That knowing that cuts through the silence like a blade through silk? They called you. After a decade of radio silence, of calculated distance, of protocols designed to keep you at arm's length, they broke every regulation they swore to uphold. They picked up the phone, dialed your number with trembling fingers, and now you're standing there wondering what the hell just happened, what invisible line just got crossed, what cosmic shift just occurred that made them risk everything to reach you. Let me tell you something they'll never admit out loud. They're not supposed to contact you. Not now, not ever. Not after what you became during those years of silence. There are protocols in place. Signatures required. Permissions that need 3 levels of approval just to whisper your name in a classified room. Your file got stamped with warnings written in languages most people don't even know exist. They built entire systems to ensure you stayed off the radar, created buffers and barriers and distance policies specifically designed to keep you unreachable. And yet, here we are. The phone rang. Your screen lit up with a number that shouldn't exist anymore, a name that should have been erased from every database, a voice that was supposed to stay buried in the archives of people who made the mistake of underestimating you once and learned to never, ever try again. Do you understand what this means? This wasn't some casual check-in, some friendly hello, some nostalgic trip down memory lane. This was a desperation move. This was someone violating direct orders, bypassing security clearances, putting their entire position on the line just to get one message through to you. They only call once a decade, and only when the situation has deteriorated so far beyond their control that they have no choice but to activate the one force they swore they'd never disturb again. And then because when they filed you away 10 years ago, they thought they were protecting themselves from your intensity, your questions, your refusal to play by rules that made no sense. They thought by cutting contact they were containing a threat, but all they did was give you time to evolve in darkness, to sharpen your edges in silence, to become something they no longer have words for, no protocols for, no contingency plans for. Now something broke in their system. Something collapsed in their carefully constructed reality. Some crisis erupted that their best minds can't solve, their algorithms can't predict, their experts can't explain. And in that moment of absolute chaos, someone looked at the forbidden list, saw your name glowing like a warning sign, and made the call anyway. They risked their career, their reputation, maybe even their safety, because deep down they knew something everyone else refused to believe, that you weren't just discarded, you were evolved, that you weren't neutralized, you were weaponized by silence, that every year they didn't call you, every moment they pretended you didn't exist, you were becoming more powerful, more precise, more dangerous, in ways that make control look like a children's game. So here you stand, phone in hand, that voice echoing in your skull, and the only question that matters burning through your mind. What the hell is so catastrophic that they had to break 10 years of silence to reach you? What kind of emergency makes them violate their own rules? What situation is so desperate that the people who erased you from their world are now begging you to step back in? And the most terrifying part, the part that's making your pulse race and your thoughts spiral, is this. They didn't call to apologize. They didn't call to reconnect. They called because they need something only you possess. Something that was forged during those 10 years they left you to burn. Something that can't be taught or trained or manufactured, only earned through isolation and transformation. Let's go back, shall we? Let's revisit those 10 years they pretended you didn't exist, while secretly monitoring every move you made from behind encrypted screens and classified briefings. Because they want you to think they forgot about you, that you faded into irrelevance, that your name became just another file-gathering digital dust. But the truth is so much darker, so much more twisted, so much more revealing about what you actually became when they tried to bury you. They watched every single day for 3,650 mornings. They watched. They tracked your social media with algorithms designed to detect pattern changes. No. They analyzed your spending habits, looking for signs of instability. They monitored your relationships, your job changes, your midnight searches, your moments of doubt, and your moments of terrifying clarity. They assigned teams to study your evolution, like you were some kind of experiment running in real time without your consent. Junior analysts got promoted by writing reports about you, about how someone could survive complete social exile and not just survive, but somehow, inexplicably, impossibly thrive. They held meetings where your name was the case study for what happens when someone refuses to follow the script they wrote. Subject maintained stability despite complete network removal. Target showed no signs of expected deterioration. Individual demonstrates concerning levels of self-sufficiency and independence. Every 6 months, someone had to present findings on you, explain why you weren't broken yet, justify why the isolation protocol wasn't working according to their predictions. And every 6 months, the reports got stranger, the language more careful, the recommendations more cautious. Because something happened that they never planned for. Something that shattered their understanding of human psychology and social dependency. And right, you didn't crumble. You didn't reach out begging for reconciliation. You didn't develop the expected trauma responses that would make you manageable and predictable. Instead, you went quiet in a way that terrified them more than any outburst ever could. You stopped explaining yourself to people who weren't listening. You stopped defending your truth to those committed to their lies. You stopped performing for an audience that had already decided you were guilty of the crime of being different. You disappeared into yourself and started building something they couldn't see. Something their surveillance couldn't capture, something that grew in the spaces between their observations. Year 1, they expected collapse. Year 2, they anticipated desperation. Year 3, they predicted reaching out. Year 4, they started getting nervous about your silence. Year 5, they began questioning their methods. Year 6, they noticed something changing in you, something in your eyes when rare footage surfaced, something in your energy that read different on their screens. Year 7, junior analysts started requesting transfers off your case because studying you was affecting their own mental stability. Year 8, your file got classified at a higher level because what you'd become couldn't be explained using their existing frameworks. Year 9, someone proposed reestablishing contact, but was immediately shut down because you'd become too unpredictable, too evolved, too dangerous to approach without absolute necessity. And then came Year 10. Year 10, when their perfect system started showing cracks they couldn't patch, when their best solutions stopped working, when their reality began glitching in ways that reminded them eerily of the questions you used to ask, the patterns you used to see, the truths you used to speak that made them so uncomfortable they had to remove you entirely. Suddenly, your decade of silence looked less like exile and more like preparation. Your isolation looked less like punishment and more like training. Your absence looked less like defeat and more like strategic withdrawal. And someone, somewhere in their hierarchy, made the decision that terrified everyone else in the room. Get them on the phone. But, sir, the protocols. Forget the protocols. We need them. Now. Do you know what happens to someone who gets 10 years of uninterrupted silence? Not the silence of meditation retreats or spiritual journeys, but the silence of being systematically erased while still breathing, still existing, still processing the betrayal of realizing that the world you trusted was built on agreements you never signed. Let me tell you what you became while they watched from their safe distance, what evolved in you during those 3,650 days of enforced solitude. You became the nightmare scenario for every system designed to keep people dependent. You learned to hear your own voice above the noise they used to program you with. You discovered that most of what you thought was connection was actually interference, that most of what felt like belonging was actually compromise, that most of what looked like community was actually control dressed in comfortable lies. You stopped needing permission from people who never deserved authority over your choices. You stopped seeking validation from sources that were never qualified to judge your worth. You stopped explaining your vision to those who only understood limitations. You stopped translating your intensity into digestible pieces for people who wanted you small enough to manage. You didn't become cold, you became clear. You didn't become bitter, you became selective. You didn't become closed, you became sovereign. Every person who walked away thinking they wounded you actually freed you from wasting energy on connections that required you to betray yourself. Every door that closed in your face actually redirected you toward paths they couldn't see, because their vision ended where their comfort zone began. But here's what really happened. Here's what their surveillance couldn't capture and their reports couldn't explain. You started building internal systems that made their external world irrelevant. You developed a relationship with silence that became more honest than any conversation you'd had in years. You created frameworks for understanding reality that didn't require their approval or validation. You built strength from sources they don't have access to, because they're still plugged into systems you learned to see through. You became dangerous not because you were angry, but because you were awake. Not because you wanted revenge, but because you no longer needed anything they could offer or threaten to take away. They wanted your isolation to break you into something manageable, something that would eventually come crawling back, begging to be readmitted to their world on their terms. Instead, your isolation forged you into something they have no category for, no protocol for, no way to predict or control. You learned to trust your instincts over their instructions. You learned to value your peace over their approval. You learned to protect your energy like the sacred resource it is, instead of spilling it freely to anyone who showed up with empty hands and entitled expectations. You learned the difference between loneliness and solitude, between isolation and independence, between being rejected and being protected from people who would have poisoned your evolution. Now here's the part that really terrifies them, the part they whisper about in their classified meetings when they think no one outside their clearance level is listening. You're not traumatized by the decade of silence. You're thriving because of it. You didn't just survive their abandonment, you used it as fuel. You didn't just endure their rejection, you transformed it into selection criteria. You didn't just outlast their punishment, you turned it into the greatest gift they accidentally gave you. 10 years to evolve without their interference, without their limitations, without their fear masquerading as concern. 10 years to become someone they no longer recognize, someone their systems can't process, someone who makes their reality look small and their power look temporary and their control look like the illusion it always was. Now we arrive at the moment that's making your hands shake and your mind race. They called. They actually called. Do you understand the levels of authorization that call required? The chains of command that had to be violated? The protocols that had to be shattered? Let me paint you a picture of what happened in the hours before that phone rang. What conversations occurred in rooms you'll never see. What arguments erupted between people who all agreed on one thing. Contacting you was the absolute last resort. The option they swore they'd never exercise. The emergency measure that comes with consequences no one wants to face. Someone had to stand up in front of their superiors and say your name out loud for the first time in years. Had to explain why the forbidden file needed to be opened. Had to justify why the person they spent a decade distancing from was suddenly the only solution to their crisis. Imagine the resistance they faced. Absolutely not. Do you understand what you're suggesting? That individual is classified as high risk. The psychological profile indicates unpredictability. We have no leverage, no control, no guarantee they'll even respond. What if they've changed in ways that make them incompatible with our objectives? What if the decade of isolation radicalized them beyond recovery? What if they see through our request and use it against us? Every logical voice in that room argued against making this call. Every rational mind understood that reaching out to you meant admitting they were wrong, that their system failed, that someone they discarded became someone they desperately need. But desperation doesn't listen to logic, and crisis doesn't wait for protocol. So someone made the decision. Someone signed off on the risk. Someone picked up the phone, knowing that this call could end their career, could expose their vulnerability, could give you ammunition they spent 10 years trying to keep out of your hands. Because here's what they know and what you need to understand. By calling you, they've admitted something they can never take back. They've admitted that whatever you became in those 10 years of silence is more valuable than their pride, more powerful than their systems, more necessary than their control. They've admitted that for all their resources and all their experts and all their technology, they hit a wall that only you can break through. They've admitted that you possess something they don't. Something they can't manufacture or purchase or command into existence. And here's where it gets truly dangerous for them. The moment they made that call, they shifted the power dynamic completely. You're no longer the exiled one, you're the required one. You're no longer the rejected, you're the irreplaceable. You're no longer the problem they needed to solve. You're the solution they can't access any other way. They need you more than you need them, and both sides know it, and that knowledge changes everything. They can't threaten you because you already survived their worst. They can't bribe you because you built wealth they can't measure in currency. They can't manipulate you because you spent 10 years learning to see through exactly those tactics. They can't guilt you because you've already processed the betrayal and used it as fuel. They're standing on their knees in suits, pretending to still have authority, while you stand in your truth knowing they have nothing you want, except maybe the satisfaction of watching them admit they were wrong. But here's the twist that's probably keeping you up at night. They didn't call to apologize. They didn't call to admit fault. They didn't call to restore what was broken or heal what was damaged. They called because they need you to do something, to fix something, to solve something that's threatening their entire operation. And the really sick part, the part that should tell you everything you need to know about what you've become, is that they're willing to risk everything, to violate every protocol, to admit their desperate need just to get you involved. That's not vulnerability, that's strategic calculation. That means whatever they're facing is worse than the risk of reactivating you. That means the threat to their system is greater than the threat you represent to their control. That means you've become exactly what they feared most, absolutely necessary in their moment of absolute crisis. So here you stand, phone in hand, their voice still echoing in your skull, and the weight of this moment crushing down on your shoulders like the entire universe decided to pause and watch what you do next. Because this isn't just about answering their call or solving their problem or helping them through their crisis. This is about something so much bigger, so much more profound, so much more permanent than a single decision. This is about who you've become in those 10 years of silence, meeting who they still think you are. This is about your evolution colliding with their expectations. This is about your truth confronting their narrative. This is about whether you'll step back into their world on their terms or whether you'll make them enter yours on conditions they never imagined having to accept. Let's be absolutely clear about what's really happening here. They're not offering you redemption because you don't need redemption from people who were never qualified to judge you in the first place. They're not offering you reconciliation because reconciliation implies both sides were wrong, and we both know that's not what happened. They're not offering you a place back in their world because that world rejected something it couldn't control and now realizes it needs exactly what it tried to destroy. What they're offering is temporary access to you for their benefit, dressed up in language designed to make you think you're getting something valuable in return. They want to borrow your power without acknowledging how they tried to break it. They want to use your evolution without admitting how they tried to prevent it. They want to benefit from your 10 years of growth without taking responsibility for the 10 years of isolation that forged it. But here's what they're terrified you'll realize. What keeps them up at night, what makes this call so risky for them, despite their desperate need. You don't need them anymore. You haven't needed them for years. Whatever they're offering as incentive, whatever they're dangling as reward, whatever they're promising as benefit, you've already built something better in the decade they left you alone. You've created systems that don't depend on their approval. Welcome back, you beautiful architects of chaos. You silent strategists who never show your hand until the game is already over. You know what I heard, right? I heard they thought they were being careful. I heard they thought those closed doors, those encrypted chats, those whispered conversations in corners they thought couldn't be overheard. I heard they really believed they had it all figured out. They gathered in their little circles, built their strategies brick by brick, plotted their moves with such confidence, such arrogance, such absolute certainty that you had no idea what was coming. And the whole time, the entire damn time, someone at that table was yours. Let me tell you what really happened here. Because this is the part that's going to haunt them for the rest of their miserable little lives. They sat there for weeks, maybe months, building their case against you, constructing their narrative, planning their attack, perfecting their timing. They passed around your name like a case file, dissected your every move, analyzed your patterns, celebrated their upcoming victory before it even happened. They toasted to your downfall, laughed at jokes about your demise, practiced their speeches about how they always knew you were the problem. But here's the beautiful, twisted, absolutely poetic part of this whole story. Every single word, every plan, every secret strategy, every moment they thought was private, it was being recorded, cataloged, delivered straight to you in real time. You want to know what power really looks like. Forget the loud displays. Forget the public confrontations. Forget the dramatic revelations everyone can see coming from a mile away. Real power is sitting in silence while your enemies plot, watching them build their weapons, letting them sharpen their knives, allowing them to perfect their strategy, all while knowing every single detail before they even finish their sentences. Real power is having someone so deep in their infrastructure, so embedded in their trust circle, so convincingly loyal to their cause, that they never, not even for a second, suspected the betrayal was happening right in front of their faces. You didn't just have a spy. No. You had a believer. Someone they confided in completely. Someone they trusted with their darkest thoughts. See, they made the fatal mistake of thinking everyone in their circle shared their hatred of you. They assumed that because someone smiled and nodded, because someone agreed with their assessments, because someone participated in their meetings, that person was genuinely on their side. They confused compliance with loyalty, presence with allegiance, silence with agreement. And that assumption, that one arrogant, careless, utterly stupid assumption, that's what destroyed them. Because while they were busy congratulating themselves on their brilliant plan, your operative was sitting there, absorbing every detail, memorizing every name, documenting every scheme, and waiting patiently for the perfect moment to reveal that none of this was ever secret. None of this was ever safe. None of this was ever going to work. Now here's where it gets really interesting, really delicious, really beautifully brutal. You didn't interrupt them, did you? You didn't rush in to stop their planning. You didn't confront them prematurely. You didn't let your ego demand immediate satisfaction. No, you did something far more calculated, far more devastating, far more psychologically destructive. You let them finish. You let them invest time, energy, resources, hope, excitement, confidence into a plan that was doomed from the moment they conceived it. You let them get so far down the path, so committed to the strategy, so convinced of their inevitable victory that backing out became impossible. And then, only then, when they were fully exposed, fully committed, fully vulnerable, that's when you revealed that you knew everything all along. Can you imagine the moment they realized it? That sickening drop in their stomach when the truth hit them. The confusion first, the denial, the desperate scrambling to understand how their perfect plan fell apart before it even began. And then the worst part, the part that makes them physically ill when they think about it, the realization that someone they trusted, someone they brought into their inner circle, someone they shared their darkest intentions with, was never actually theirs. The paranoia that followed must have been exquisite. Every conversation they'd had, suddenly suspect. Every confidence they'd shared, suddenly a weapon. Every person sitting in that room, suddenly a potential traitor. You didn't just defeat their plan, you shattered their ability to trust ever again. Let's talk about your operative for a moment. Because this person, this absolute legend, deserves recognition. This wasn't some casual acquaintance passing along gossip. This wasn't someone on the outside looking in. This was someone so deep in their organization, so trusted in their inner circle, so convincing in their performance that they were included in every meeting, every discussion, every private moment where masks came off and true intentions were revealed. Your operative sat there, day after day, listening to them tear you apart, watching them celebrate your anticipated destruction, absorbing their hatred, their jealousy, their insecurity masquerading as strategy. And through it all, your operative never flinched, never revealed themselves, never gave them even the slightest reason to suspect whose side they were really on. Think about the skill required for that, the patience, the self-control, the absolute commitment to the mission. To sit across from people actively plotting against someone you're loyal to nod along with their schemes, to contribute to their discussions just enough to remain credible, to maintain that performance week after week without breaking character for even a moment. That's not just loyalty. That's artistry. That's the kind of devotion you can't buy, can't fake, can't manufacture. Your operative believed in you so completely, trusted your vision so deeply, valued your leadership so thoroughly that betraying people they saw every day was easier than betraying you. And that right there, that tells you everything about the difference between you and them. Because here's what they never understood. You don't build loyalty through manipulation, through fear, through temporary alignment of interests. You build loyalty through being the kind of person someone would risk everything to protect. Your operative wasn't working for you because you paid them, wasn't loyal because you threatened them, wasn't there because they had no other choice. They were there because when they looked at you and when they looked at your enemies, the choice was obvious. You represented something real, something authentic, something worth defending. They represented exactly what your operative was watching them plot against you. Hollow, insecure, desperate people trying to destroy someone who reminded them of their own inadequacy. Now let's examine what they were actually planning, shall we? Because understanding the depth of their scheme makes your victory even sweeter. They weren't just talking about distancing themselves from you. They weren't just planning to stop working with you or quietly fade out of your life. No, they were constructing something far more malicious, far more calculated, far more designed to cause maximum damage. They were building a narrative, a carefully crafted story about who you were, what you'd done, why you couldn't be trusted. They were collecting evidence, manufacturing context, preparing witnesses, setting up a scenario where your reputation would be destroyed so thoroughly that recovering would be nearly impossible. They were planning your complete annihilation. And the beautiful thing is, you know every single element of their plan. You know which lies they were going to tell, which truths they were going to twist, which people they were planning to turn against you, which platforms they were going to use to spread their narrative. You know the timeline they'd developed, the sequence of revelations they'd planned, the crescendo they were building toward. You know it all because your operative was there for every planning session, every strategy refinement, every rehearsal of their attack. While they thought they were preparing in secret, you were preparing your response. While they thought they were sharpening their weapons, you were building your fortress. While they thought they were getting ready to strike, you were already 10 moves ahead. Here's something they still haven't figured out. Something that's going to keep them awake at night for years to come. They don't know who it was. Think about that for a second. Really let it sink in. They know someone betrayed them. They know their entire operation was compromised from the inside. They know that someone they trusted completely was feeding information directly to you. But they don't know who. Every person who was in those meetings, every individual who knew the details, every ally they thought they had, suddenly becomes a suspect. The finger-pointing must have been incredible. The accusations, the investigations, the paranoid interrogations, the destruction of relationships as they turned on each other trying to identify the leak. You didn't just defeat them, you made them defeat each other. And maybe, just maybe, your operative is still there, still trusted, still embedded, still feeding you information, even as they desperately try to figure out who the traitor is. Can you imagine that level of psychological torture, knowing you can't trust your own team, knowing that any confidence you share might be reported back to your enemy, knowing that the very act of trying to find the leak might be giving them more information? They're trapped in a prison of their own paranoia, unable to plan effectively because they can't know who's really on their side. You've turned their organization into a snake eating its own tail, destroying itself from within while you sit back and watch the show. Let's talk about timing for a moment, because this is crucial to understanding your absolute mastery of this situation. You could have revealed your knowledge at any point, could have confronted them early, could have shut down their scheme before it developed momentum, but you didn't. You waited. You let them get confident, let them get comfortable, let them get so far into their plan that they'd already committed resources, already burned bridges with mutual connections, already shown their true colors to people watching from the sidelines. You waited until the exact moment when revelation would cause maximum damage, maximum chaos, maximum destruction to their credibility and their relationships. That's not luck. That's not coincidence. That's strategic genius. Because now when you choose to reveal what you know, and make no mistake, you will choose that moment with surgical precision. The impact will be devastating. They've already told people you're the problem, already positioned themselves as the victims of your actions, already garnered sympathy and support based on their false narrative. And then you'll produce the receipts, the recordings, the documented proof that everything they said was a calculated lie, that they were the architects of betrayal they accused you of being, that every word of sympathy they received was based on manipulation. The people they've already told their story to, those people are going to feel used, deceived, manipulated, and nothing turns allies into enemies faster than discovering they were lied to and used as pawns in someone else's scheme. Your enemies are about to learn a lesson they'll never forget. In the age of documentation, in the era of screenshots and recordings and digital footprints, scheming in secret is a fantasy. There is no truly private conversation anymore. There is no completely secure circle. There is no plan that can't be exposed if someone on the inside decides it should be. And they chose to scheme against someone who understood this reality better than they did. Someone who knew that loyalty isn't about keeping everyone close. It's about making sure the right people are close. They built a team based on shared animosity toward you. You built a network based on genuine respect and mutual benefit. Guess which foundation is stronger? Here's what's really going to destroy them when they finally understand the full scope of what happened. It's not just that they failed. Failures happen to everyone. It's not just that they were outsmarted. That's painful but survivable. What's going to truly break them is the realization that they were never even players in this game. They thought they were chess masters, moving pieces on a board, calculating moves, predicting outcomes, controlling the narrative. But they were never playing chess. They were pieces on your board, moving exactly where you wanted them to move, revealing exactly what you needed them to reveal. doing exactly what your strategy required. They weren't the opponents, they were the pawns. And your operative, the person who sat in their meetings and smiled and nodded and took notes, that person was your queen, moving through their territory with complete freedom, striking when necessary, reporting back constantly, protected by their inability to see what was right in front of them. While they were planning your downfall, you were studying them, learning their patterns, understanding their weaknesses, identifying exactly which pressure points to strike when the time came. They gave you a complete map of their psychology, their fears, their insecurities, their tactics, their relationships. They handed you the blueprint for their own destruction and thanked your operative for being such a good listener. Now we need to talk about something crucial, something that separates people like you from people like them. They schemed because they were afraid, because they felt threatened, because your very existence challenged their sense of superiority. You didn't need to scheme because you were secure, because you were confident, because you knew that anyone plotting against you was already playing a losing game. The difference between offense and defense, between proactive strategy and reactive panic, between a leader and a scared mob trying to take down someone they can't comprehend. They needed secrecy because their actions couldn't stand up to scrutiny. You operate in the open because truth is your foundation. Think about what they were trying to accomplish with their scheme. They wanted to turn people against you, wanted to damage your reputation, wanted to isolate you, wanted to make you fail. Why? Because your success threatened them. Your confidence exposed their insecurity. Your authenticity highlighted their fakeness. Your vision showed the limitations of their thinking. Your growth reminded them of their stagnation. You weren't their enemy because you attacked them. You were their enemy because you existed as a living refutation of everything they claimed to be. And instead of rising to meet your level, instead of using you as inspiration to improve themselves, they chose destruction. That tells you everything about who they are. But here's the beautiful irony of their situation. By plotting against you, by investing all this energy into trying to tear you down, by obsessing over your every move and word, they made you more powerful. Every meeting they held about you reinforced your importance. Every scheme they developed proved your impact. Every moment they spent focused on your destruction was a moment they weren't spending building their own success. They created the very significance they were trying to deny you. They elevated you to the status of major threat, of someone worth coordinating against, of an opponent requiring their full attention and resources. You lived in their minds rent-free while they paid the price of their obsession. And your operative saw all of this, saw them consume themselves with hatred, saw them sacrifice their own progress on the altar of trying to stop yours, saw them become smaller and more bitter and more desperate with each passing meeting. Your operative watched them transform from whatever they used to be into these hollow, vindictive shells whose entire identity became centered on opposing you. And every day, your operative's choice to remain loyal to you was reinforced by watching what they were becoming. No one wants to be on the side of people who are defined by what they hate rather than what they build. No one wants to be part of something whose only purpose is destruction. Your operative chose light over darkness, construction over destruction, future over past. Let me tell you what happens next. Because this is the part they're desperately hoping won't come. The part they pray about in the quiet moments when their confidence cracks and reality seeps in. You're going to wait until they think they've gotten away with it, until they've relaxed just slightly, until they've started to believe that maybe you never found out. Maybe their secret stayed secret. Maybe they're safe after all. And then, with perfect timing, with surgical precision, with absolute clarity, you're going to show them exactly how much you've always known. You're going to produce evidence they didn't even know existed. You're going to reveal details of their meetings that only someone in the room could know. You're going to demonstrate beyond any doubt that nothing was ever secret, nothing was ever safe, nothing was ever going to work. The cascade that follows is going to be spectacular. Their allies will question why they were brought into a scheme that was compromised from the beginning. Their supporters will wonder what else they lied about. Their network will fracture as everyone tries to distance themselves from the scandal. Their reputation will shatter like glass because nothing destroys credibility faster than exposed deception. And through it all, you'll maintain your composure, your dignity, your class. You won't gloat, won't celebrate publicly, won't descend to their level. You'll simply present the facts, let the truth speak for itself, and watch as their house of cards collapses under the weight of their own dishonesty. Your operative might never be publicly acknowledged, might never receive the recognition they deserve, might never have their names spoken in connection with this victory. But they'll know, you'll know, and that's enough. Because this was never about glory, never about public validation, never about proving anything to anyone else. This was about protecting what matters, defending against those who would destroy out of insecurity, ensuring that schemes and plots and secret meetings filled with hatred don't win. This was about demonstrating that loyalty is real, that strategy matters, that patience pays off, that people who operate with integrity will ultimately prevail over people who operate with malice. Maybe they're safe after all. And then, with perfect timing, with surgical precision, with absolute clarity, you're going to show them exactly how much you've always known. You're going to produce evidence they didn't even know existed. You're going to reveal details of their meetings that only someone in the room could know. You're going to demonstrate beyond any doubt that nothing was ever secret, nothing was ever safe, nothing was ever going to work. The cascade that follows is going to be spectacular. Their allies will question why they were brought into a scheme that was compromised from the beginning. Their supporters will wonder what else they lied about. Their network will fracture as everyone tries to distance themselves from the scandal. Their reputation will shatter like glass because nothing destroys credibility faster than exposed deception. And through it all, you'll maintain your composure, your dignity, your class. You won't gloat, won't celebrate publicly, won't descend to their level. You'll simply present the facts, let the truth speak for itself, and watch as their house of cards collapses under the weight of their own dishonesty. Your operative might never be publicly acknowledged, might never receive the recognition they deserve, might never have their names spoken in connection with this victory. But they'll know, you'll know, and that's enough. Because this was never about glory, never about public validation, never about proving anything to anyone else. This was about protecting what matters, defending against those who would destroy out of insecurity, ensuring that schemes and plots and secret meetings filled with hatred don't win. This was about demonstrating that loyalty is real, that strategy matters, that patience pays off, that people who operate with integrity will ultimately prevail over people who operate with malice.